Welcome again. The term convocation was first used in the 14th century and simply means a calling together. So we've called together people today. And in this case, it is a calling together of faculty, administration, members of the Board of Trustees, students, and family members, and friends who have supported Heritage University students in their many endeavors to academic achievement and the excellence that we're recognizing today. Students, today we gather to celebrate your success. We acknowledge the faculty and thank them for them helping you to be successful, and all others who have endorsed you along the way that you have brought as guests today. Our ceremony today is one of the university's, I believe, most important and long-standing academic traditions. This is our 28th Heritage University Academic Honors Convocation. It's quite a tradition. During this event, we will recognize the academic achievements of our students and your progress toward reaching your potential. We will honor faculty who have contributed to your lives, to the lives of students through their teaching, their mentoring, and their encouragement, as well as their dedication and leadership to their fields of study. We take great pride in presenting our students to the university community and acknowledging your hard work and your extraordinary commitment and accomplishments to your studies. Students, job well done. Congratulations. Several people on the platform will have acting parts today, but there's two people who do not, so I'd like to recognize them. Ms. Siri Strom is our Vice President of Student Support Services, and Mr. David Wise is the Vice President of Marketing. Please stand and be recognized. At this time, it is my pleasure to introduce a leader who listens and supports innovation and encourages all of us to grow and to develop and to succeed as individuals. Students, faculty, administrators, we're all encouraged by our president, Dr. John Bassett. Please join me in welcoming.
Thank you, Dr. Corleone, and my welcome to everyone here. My congratulations to those who have had a great year, and many who will have an even greater year next year. I want to acknowledge here the family of our speaker, her husband, Wendell over there, son and daughter. I also want to acknowledge our dear friend, Belinda Higgins, who works with us on the Act 6 scholarship there. This is a great day. You know, convocation we have in the fall, we have a special convocation in the spring. We don't have a lot of ceremonies and rituals at Heritage, but they're very important. Commencement, we always remind people at commencement, graduation, commencement is a beginning. No, I struggled through. I graduated. I find it's all over. No, it's just a beginning. Commencement is the beginning of a life. Beginning of your life. Beginning of your life as an educated person. Convocation, as the provost said so well, is a calling together. Convocare, to call people together. Time to start the academic year. Or to call people together. Time to end the academic year for the summer. Start up again next year. We don't have a lot of rituals, but we sometimes forget how important our rituals are. They really give order to our values and to our experiences. They give order. They bring meaning to it. You study hard. You work hard. Why do we do this? It's part of education. We always worry about that word a little bit there. Educare, which really means ducare, to lead. Egg, to lead out of. To lead one out of wherever one came from into something bigger, into something larger. I've always been very grateful since coming to Heritage that our university is here on land of the Yakima Reservation, because our Native American populations, I think, have perhaps a greater sense of the importance of ritual than any other ethnic group in America. And if you live with our Native American brothers and sisters, you understand the importance of things that happen in the Longhouse, things that happen in sweat houses, things that happen in so many ways. The respect for the elders, something that many of us forget often in other cultures. And I think here, our ritual is not only one of the importance of education or higher education, it's also a generational thing. Because your education is ideally preparing you to replace the generation that's come before you, to provide the leadership that they provided, to make yourself worthy of having the deference that the elders had for you when you were growing up, and in order to pass on the values of your civilization. Changing, yes. If they didn't change, we'd all be static, we'd all die. They do change. But changing without an appreciation of where you came from is not really healthy change. Where did we come from? Where are we going? And so our rituals that we have at the university are ones that are to remind us we come together to learn together. I realize a lot of our learning is not the same as it was 100 years ago. Sometimes the convocation is online, sometimes it's electronic, sometimes it's at a distance, but it's still calling people together to learn from each other. And that's what we're doing today, and also taking time to honor those whose accomplishments have been very special. But again, to remember that the excellence of those accomplishments of our students and our faculty is within a structure of meaning. That excellence in learning, excellence in research, excellence in performance, excellence in service to our community takes place within a context and structure of meaning. These things are important. And in a way, when we come to a convocation, one of the things we're saying is these things are important to our culture. So again, congratulations to all of you. We're especially honored today. We have a very special person who is our keynote speaker at our convocation. While originally the program said the president was going to have the honor of introducing her, I'm going to call up here to the podium someone without whom this university would not exist, and someone who is a member of the board of directors of the organization of which our speaker is the president. And I thought that Sister Kathleen Ross would be the appropriate person to do the introduction this morning. Kathleen?
Well, it is indeed my honor to introduce Dr. Yolanda Spiva Watson as our convocation keynote speaker today. I've only known Dr. Spiva for a little less than 2 years since she was hired as the CEO at the College Success Foundation. As John mentioned, I'm on that board. But in that short time, I have come to truly admire her total dedication to college success for everyone. Dr. Spiva came to the College Success Foundation from Atlanta, Georgia, where she was the CEO of the Project Grad organization, working with public schools to increase high school graduation and college enrollment and success. And before that, she held various responsible positions with the U.S. Department of Education in Washington, D.C. and in Atlanta. She also served as an assistant dean, I was delighted to learn, at an urban university that has a spirit very similar to Heritage's Trinity College in Washington, D.C. Dr. Spiva has also written an amazing book about the early years of her alma mater, Spelman College, which college was a pioneer in providing education for those who had been previously underserved, in that case, African American women. And I love the name she put on that book, Daring to Educate. That says a lot about who she is. After Dr. Spiva completed her economics degree at Spelman College, she earned a master's from the University of Chicago and then a PhD in higher education from Georgia State University. Last month, Dr. Spiva spent a day on our campus, and I think many of you may have seen her or met her. We're delighted that she took that time to learn about our students, our faculty, our staff, and even more delighted that she is back here today to share her passion for college success. So please help me welcome Dr. Yolanda Spiva.
Kathleen. Thank you very much, Dr. Bassett. And I'd like to acknowledge all of the esteemed guests of the day. First of all, I'd like to acknowledge the students, because without you, we would have no purpose for being here. I'd like to honor all of your family members, because of course without them, you would not be able to be here. I'd also like to acknowledge Mrs. Bassett. I'd also like to acknowledge, of course, the esteemed faculty and administrators who toil every day to make sure that you have the benefit of an education, because we know that without an education, futures will be very, very bleak. It is truly an honor for me to be here. Sister Kathleen, as Dr. Bassett mentioned, has not only been a member of our board, she is really one of the founding members of our board. Early on, she has been on that board for 14 years, and our organization has been in existence since the year 2000. So as you can see, she also is a tireless advocate and supporter of our foundation. She's also been a wise counsel for me as well, so I very much appreciate your introduction. The name of this school, Heritage, is defined in the dictionary as inheritance, legacy, tradition, birthright, custom, culture. Heritage is steeped in cultural tradition and honors the inherited legacy each of you brings with you when you step onto this campus. It not only respects customs and cultures, it celebrates them and weaves them into the fabric like a Native American blanket. Your university's motto is knowledge brings us together. Knowledge and understanding not only of ourselves, but of all others. How we each bring a unique perspective to the conversation. How the discussion is richer and deeper and more fulfilling with all of us in it. People that look like me and you and you and you and you. Heritage also includes a storytelling culture. Heritage is built on Native American land, as Dr. Bassett mentioned, in the shadow of Mount Adams Pato, the sacred mountain of the Yakimas. It is part of a culture that has deep roots in oral tradition and lore. Heritage resides in the Yakima Valley, as you know, home to many families like yours, who have left their homelands, their families, their homes, their other ways of life, to find a better one here. These families have strong ties to their culture. Yes, they left places and people behind, but they brought their culture, their customs, their language with them to treasure and remind them of their roots. As Dr. Bassett mentioned, this is something that we don't honor enough in this country. The oral tradition of relating the stories of those who go before us. The past is the foundation of the future. And our backstory is the fertile ground in which we grow into the persons we ultimately become. The community that grows up around you, the country that envelops you into its norms. So your unique backstory is important. Like the color of the eyes you were born with, it is yours to cherish. It is not only important for others to know, it is important for you to know, to value, to recognize. It is something to embrace. My organization, the College Success Foundation, echoes with the stories of the scholars we work with. 80% of our students are first-generation college-going students, the first in their families to attend college. 70% are students of color, and the vast majority of the scholars we serve come from low-income families. In the past 5 years, the College Success Foundation has helped send 76 students to Heritage University through scholarships. And since we started 15 years ago, the CSF scholars who have attended here are 91% first-generation college-going and 94% are students of color. But it's a student's backstory that brings them to our door. It's not the cards which they have been dealt, but how they play their hand. So we look for students who show grit, who have an academic mindset, and who demonstrate perseverance. Students like you. These are all of the factors that we know translate into college success. So I've heard some of your stories from Dr. Bassett and Sister Kathleen, and your stories are astounding. I had the pleasure actually of being escorted. Sister Kathleen mentioned my visit here a couple of weeks back. And when I was here, I was with Jonathan Cortez. He's a freshman and he speaks very highly of the Heritage community. He said that when he first visited this campus, he knew instantly that this was the place for him. Already in his first year, he's doing tremendous things and is talking about the future, not just for the rest of this year, but the future, the next 4 years at Heritage and the next past that in his life. He talks about the Heritage family, a spirit that is fostered so readily here on this campus. One of the first stories I heard when I first came to the College Success Foundation, though, was from a beautiful young Latina woman with an equally beautiful name, America. America's family moved here from Mexico to give their children a fresh start and an education. They were loving, hardworking family. But America carried a secret. She was undocumented. From the age of 9, she and her parents and siblings worked in the fields, arriving at 5:30 a.m. to start picking fruit before the sun came up. And as they filled their buckets with apples, pears, or cherries, America fantasized about her future. They often moved around, finding shelter with friends and extended family. When her family moved to Yakima, she and her siblings walked 8 miles a day to catch a bus so they could keep going to school in Wapato. I'm betting some of you have similar experiences, and America doesn't sound like someone you don't know. When America became a College Success Foundation Achiever Scholar, she went on to college. A universe of opportunity opened to her. She learned like you. She traveled like you. She had internships like you. And she now is a college graduate, a successful job specialist with the youth program in Idaho, and married and a proud U.S. citizen. She's helping other young people find their dream. America sees all of this as a miracle. America's miracle was more than just 4 years of college that resulted in a college degree and catapulted her into new horizons. It was more long-reaching than that. It changed the life of her and her family. America's success validated the dreams and hard work of her parents. Their sacrifices actually meant something. Her success was an inspirational template for her brother and her sister to follow, for they too continued on to get college degrees. It was a testament to her community. The relatives who sheltered her family when her family had no home, the school that nurtured her, the mentors that supported her. Her success was their success, and a beacon to others that they too could do the same. I tell you America's story first, because she was your neighbor. She called the Yakima Valley home, like many of you, and I am certain that America will spend the rest of her life giving back to others, so that, like her, they too can achieve their dreams. Every story, like America's, good, bad, or indifferent, has a beginning, a middle, and an end. Every person has a story. Some have more drama and more conflict in their story, but any good story has conflict in it. What movie, what book grabs you if it doesn't have a conflict? The resolution is what the reader hangs on to for the end of the story. So who doesn't root for the underdog, celebrate the hero, and boo the villain? You inherit your beginning. You inherited that. There is not a lot about you that can do anything about that part. But as you make your way through your story, you're able to take more and more authorship of it. The middle of the story is a little bit of both, what you inherit and what you make of it. But the chapters building up to the ending are so often in your hands. Sure, life has a way of getting in the way, bad stuff happens, but it is what you actually do with that stuff that determines your character. As undergrads, I venture to say to you that you're in the middle of your story. As Dr. Bassett said, the beginning of the next phase of your life. You are on the cusp of determining which direction your story will take and which direction it will take you. Where will it take the reader? Is your story worth the read? Is it worth the effort? Will your story win a Pulitzer? Another favorite story of mine, great story, is a student of ours named David. David is an African-American man in Seattle. At 16, he found himself sitting in the Seattle library, surrounded by books and people who did not know his secret. He was homeless. The library was his safe place amidst the chaos of his life. This is where he slept every night, in the Seattle Public Library. It wasn't always like that, but his single mom was burdened with debt, and keeping her home was a struggle. Often there was no electricity in the house and the water was turned off. Pretty soon they were evicted. Life was tough for David without the basics. If he had $1.25, he would debate on how to spend it, buy food to eat, or use it for bus fare to get to school. Food often won out. One day, David chose to confide in a teacher. That teacher took David into his home, mentored him, housed him, encouraged his academic success. Over the next 2 years, life changed for David. His academic success soared. He became a College Success Foundation Achiever Scholar. He received amazing scholarships, took advantage of every opportunity, including internships and contacts. David is now a junior at the University of Washington, majoring in mechanical engineering, and is the president and executive director of Scholarship Junkies, a service corps of students helping other students find and apply for scholarships. There is no doubt that he will find great success in life. He will move beyond the beginning chapters of his story into a new promising middle with so much potential for an exciting sequel. This is what the College Success Foundation is all about. We envision a nation where all students, regardless of their race, ethnicity, socioeconomic status, or familial educational achievement, will have equal opportunities to access and complete a post-secondary education. We also envision a higher educational landscape where low-income and first-generation students, foster youth, and other vulnerable populations of students will attend, persist, and graduate from college, at least on par with other students who come from higher income backgrounds. And we also envision a world where cycles of intergenerational poverty will be interrupted and ultimately broken as a result of the educational attainment levels and post-secondary professional accomplishments of these students and the families impacted by their work. In today's world, we know that completing college is important. I don't want to bore you with statistics, but I do want to share some startling facts that you may or may not be aware of. In just 2.5 years from now, 2/3 of the job in Washington are projected to require a post-secondary education. 2/3, that's 75%. In other words, more than a high school education. The amount you receive in wages throughout your lifetime will likely be determined by the level of education you received. That's different than it was in the past. Those with an associate's degree have median annual earnings of 33% more than those with the high school diploma. So the more you earn educationally, the more you're likely to earn in compensation. And for those with a bachelor's degree, they earn 73% more than those with a high school diploma. So if you're just looking at jobs and income, there's no doubt that completing college is one of the single most important things you can do. If you look beyond this, you will find that education comes with more stability in family, in health, and in life. And we had a conversation this morning with many of the students here at Heritage, and talking to Amber Ortiz and Harley Moran. Both of them are from Yakima and have children themselves, and talked about the ways in which being able to afford to provide food for their children will allow them to succeed in life. And so education is important to them. And indeed, it's an adventure waiting to happen for you as well. Your horizons are broadened, your experiences are more varied, and your contacts will be greatly expanded just by this experience. This, of course, is not to say that a college degree alone is a free ticket to success. But a college degree does present you with more tools to work with, more experiences to tap into, and more knowledge and skills to draw upon. All these tools help you avoid the pitfalls, take the most efficient detours, stay on track, get to your ultimate destination. You have the passcode, and what you do with that passcode after you get to the door is still up to you. It's still your story to tell, your next chapter to write, and your ending to determine. Like Jenny. Jenny was a little girl growing up on the east side of Tacoma, in a neighborhood ridden with gang violence and drug deals. She was born in the U.S. to Cambodian immigrant parents who fled the Khmer Rouge and the terrors of persecution as teenagers. Early on, Jenny understood the value of hard work. She spent countless hours collecting and bagging pine cones, a rich resource in the Northwest. From her daily collections, her mother made potpourri to be sold to a company. But all the while, Jenny was collecting pine cones outside of the buildings, in the parks and the schools. She longed to be inside those walls, not outside. The inside walls of an office appealed to her. She did not want to stay on the outside looking in. In high school, Jenny was selected as a CSF Achiever Scholar. To her, this was the equivalent to being Willy Wonka in the chocolate factory. She now felt like she had the golden ticket. She discovered that in her first year in college, many miles from home was difficult, and she had a hard time resisting the call of home, where family needs continuously pulled her. When she did switch colleges to be closer and to stem the disintegration of her family due to domestic issues, she suffered bouts of depression and loneliness. She fought the daily urges to quit, and would have given in if it had not been for mentors who supported her and that inner voice reminded her of the end goal. In 2003, Jenny became the first in her family to graduate from college. She knew that she had lost her family and her home, but she treasured the education she carried away. And she knew this was something that could absolutely never be taken away from her. What Jenny tells others is this: the secret to success is wanting it. The resources, the opportunities that you receive have no true added value unless you want it for yourself. The idea of having a dream, seeing it come true, wanting it, earning it, knowing it is unmistakably yours, and knowing how to use it is something only you can claim. No one else can do that for you. And I'm very happy to report that Jenny is no longer on the outside with the pine cones. She's a human resources generalist at Boeing with the world of career opportunity awaiting. There is another group of students who are very dear and near to my heart, and many of you may also fall into this category. It's a very vulnerable population of students. Those are foster youth, those who do not necessarily reside with their families of origin, and at the ages of 18, when they age out of foster care, often don't have the hope, the guidance, or the persistence to go to college. Jessica is a young foster woman in our program who grew up in the Yakima Valley. But after an abusive childhood, she was removed from her home at a young age with only a heavy trash bag filled with her belongings. After a couple of years in the system, Jessica was able to reunite with her loving grandmother who encouraged her to follow her dreams. What I hear from Jessica is this: painful memories were the soundtrack of her life. But out of these storms emerged a cloud with a silver lining. Her mother's trouble inspired her because she realized that she wanted a completely different life. She did not know how to make it happen, but she was determined to find a way. When Jessica was accepted into our program, she said that she shed the very first tears of joy she had ever cried. And in that instant, the uncertainty was gone, and she knew college was her way out. Jessica is now a college graduate with a bachelor's degree in social work, working as a youth counselor at a home for foster children. She has plans to advocate for the physical and mental health of those living in high-risk, low-income communities. These students, although they may be a world away or seem like they're a world away, I know they're also just like you. Heritage students like Marcus Morales, SGA president and ACSEX member, students like Amber Ortiz and Harley Moran, who I mentioned earlier, students like Zia Labreski and Suzette Teodoro. These are students who are not, some of them are the first in their families to attain college, and others have many who have gone before them. But at the end of the day, we know that the culture at Heritage is powerful. It is about support, it's about success, it is about family, it's about helping everyone succeed and knowing everyone by name. These stories are all important to us, and I applaud all of these students, as well as you undergraduates, who have defied the odds to sit in these seats today, despite your story, whatever the beginning, the middle, or the end of your particular story that I may never know, but I certainly understand. I applaud your professors for their commitment to what I believe is one of the greatest social justice issues of our time: education, higher education. So here's what I say to you as you embark on your studies this quarter. The things I shared are not my words of wisdom. I actually talk to students everywhere I go, so these come directly from the mouths of our CSF scholars, who, like you, have found a way to achieve their college dream, despite the sometimes difficult circumstances they have found themselves in. The first word of advice that they always say in terms of your story is to honor your story. Take your beginning and build on it, and create your unique middle and end. You inherited the beginning, but you do have a path in writing the middle and the end. Have a real dream and want it. Don't just fantasize or think about the things you want to do. Have a real dream and want it so bad that you can taste it. Want it so bad that you will do anything that it takes to get you in that direction. Work hard. It sounds trite, but you really have to work hard, and I know each of you knows that you would not be in this convocation today, sitting in these seats without having worked hard, because nothing worthwhile was ever achieved without hard work. Find hope for yourself, even amidst hopelessness, and give hope to others. Be perseverant, and don't give up, even when you are too exhausted to continue. Even though you have that exam in the morning and you studied all night because you didn't prepare early. Even when you have that paper that you're scrambling to get completed. Even when it feels like it doesn't matter anymore, and if you happen to be a parent as well as a student, it seems like there's no way that you can do them both. Teach your children resilience so that they can do the same. There is no greater gift than to first give your children roots and then to give them wings. So even if you are a parent and a student, you are setting a tremendous example for them. Learn from life's challenges. No one flew very far from the nest without first stepping out of their comfort zone. You've already taken the first step. Keep on stepping. Go out of your comfort zone, and it doesn't have to be physically all the time, but go outside of your comfort zone in terms of your mindset. You will grow and learn more about yourself trying to meet a new challenge than you ever will by avoiding it. And in most cases, you will actually surprise yourself with what you can do. Ask for help and accept it. All of the heroes and heroines I have told you about today, students just like you, they reached out for a lifeline. You heard me talk about the student David in the library. He had to make himself noticeable to that teacher or the teacher that helped him. When I talked about America, she had to reach out to someone for them to help her. Jessica, who's now at Boeing, she had to reach out to someone for them to help her. They had the sense, the common sense to look for the help, but also the more common sense to accept it. They experienced intervention by a person or a group that rescued them temporarily from the storm and gave them shelter until they developed strong survival skills. And lastly, but certainly not leastly, give back. Give back to those following in your footsteps, whether from gratitude or from a social justice perspective or out of family and community loyalty. You have families, communities, friends watching you. So be a great example. Your success will be their success. Stretch out your hand, share what you've learned, and encourage others. So you may be asking me, oh, well, Yolanda, we've heard about all of these students you serve. What about your story? Well, my story I saved for last. I can't help but ask myself, how does my story inform others going through their own college experience? I was not a first-generation college student, like many of you. And although my family was not wealthy, we were not poor either, like David, whom I referenced earlier. I did not really struggle in school. In fact, I loved school. I excelled in school, and I would even go as far as to say that I have a deep reverence for learning and still love to learn today. I didn't have difficulty navigating the college-going process like Amber told me she did earlier on today, because my mother was, of all things, believe it or not, my high school guidance counselor. So my career goal was to be someone like Dr. Bassett or Sister Kathleen Ross, a college president. There was nothing I loved more than burying myself in the library stacks and studying and thinking about academia and really, thinking about the higher lofty goals of life. But I knew I had to give back. So that is why I questioned myself, even now. I'm giving back, but how does my story relate to yours? Well, I thought about this long and hard in preparation for this speech, and my early years were guided, as I mentioned to you, my guidance counselor mom. She was a no-nonsense, and still is, a no-nonsense woman who had a PhD and was trained as a psychotherapist, but she didn't always have a PhD with a career. She was the youngest of 14 children growing up in Florida, where her parents were farmers, like many of your families. They worked the land. And even though she was the last in a very long line of children, my grandparents encouraged her and instilled in her the value of an education. You see, my mother's story and my grandmother's story were more like some of yours and our friend America and Amber and Suzette. My mother was a first-generation college student. Pardon me. My mother faced the typical hurdles of getting into and graduating from college. So when I look back to discover the relevance of my experience to those of you struggling to get to school every day, make ends meet, balance jobs and family needs, I realize that my story rests on the fact that I am the product of a family where those who went before me laid the groundwork for my journey. I am a product of the legacy. Their convictions of how education can broaden one's horizons, help you grow, become all you can be, and are the foundation of my growing up years. It is upon their shoulders that I stand. So while I am the hope and the dream of the slave, as Maya Angelou said, and of my grandparents who were farmers, they sacrificed so that I could be standing before you today with an education. And so all of your families, whether you're not even the first in your family to attend college or not, it doesn't matter. You're creating a legacy so that your grandchildren or your child or you can be in a position to stand before others and to tell your story. We don't all come equipped with the right mix of a homegrown compass to get to college, growing up with a mom as a guidance counselor or an inborn reverence for learning. I kind of inherited that. But that was also just the beginning of my story. It was not the end. My own life has evolved with highs and lows, and twists and turns, and drama, and characters, and color. But it's the only story I've got. So, like you, I suggest that we take our story from the beginning, the one that we inherited, and write the rest of our story. That we create the next chapters, find your middle and your end, develop your character, and enjoy the read. And if after the convocation you have time, I'll tell you the end, or the ending, or where we are in the middle of my story. It may not win a Pulitzer, but it is my story, and like yours, you may not win a Pulitzer, but it is your story, published on your heart and on the hearts of your family for generations to come. It is written with your blood, sweat, and tears. You are the author of the most important story you will ever write, the story of your life. Thank you, Heritage University.
wonderful. I don't think anybody can say that